A conscious tech summit, I haven't experienced one in Germany, and I'm really amazed by the fact that this is so much about collaboration. And this will also play a role in what I will tell you today. So I'm an entrepreneur myself. I'm a representative of the German Federal Association of Startups, which is the biggest startup cluster in Germany. And yeah, there's a generation of startups in Germany, apparently. And this is, by now, the structures are quite settled, and you can always find that out if something is really existent, if there's an association for it in Germany. Because Germans love associations. There's an association for everything. And apparently, there's also an association for startups. And I want to give you quick insights, qualitative and quantitative insights, into the ecosystem that is existent in Germany based on a study that the association does every year, and conclude some actionable conclusions that are maybe applicable, mostly applicable to Germany because it's German data, but maybe it's applicable to the Egyptian ecosystem too. I would hope so. So I hope you profit from that and you can take something out of it. And if you have any questions, please feel free to jump in, ask your questions. Yeah, I hope you can profit from it. So the German Association of Startups. In Deutsch, it's Bundesverband Deutsche Startups. What is it? So what we do, basically, we are the biggest cluster of startups in Germany. We want to create a founder-friendly environment, advocate the idea of founding your own company, create an entrepreneurial mindset for the people, get in dialogue with politics, so do some real lobby work in the end, but also, and this is much more important for me, connect people, create a network of non-competitive exchange, knowledge exchange, idea exchange, collaboration, and support the companies where they need help. This is a very important task of this association. To know where to support the companies, of course, you need to know where the pain points are, where the hurdles are with regard to their business activities. And of course, there are some very obvious, let me call them obvious locational factors that we work on and together with the startups all the time. Those obvious locational factors somehow are in the DNA of the startups, of every startup. They are somehow in the methodology they work in. And I don't want to spend too much time here. I'm sure you all know this. This is access to infrastructure, mostly digital infrastructure. And this is access to venture capital, of course, and also the methodological toolkit for startups. When I started in the startup scene, I didn't have any idea how this methodology is to be done, and I'm happy that people helped me with that. So also a very important, obvious locational factor is being close to the consumer in the relevant industry, being close to your competitors, and also being close to relevant human resources. This is all obvious in a sense, but it's not everything. So there are other areas in which companies need support to build successful businesses. And to find out where exactly those areas are, or those pain points and those chances are, we do a study every year. It's called the German Startup Monitor. And last year's German Startup Monitor was with up to 2,000 startups, more than 4,000 founders, and up to 20,000 employees. And it is meant to find out what is going on in the ecosystem. And what I will do now is that I selected various of there are various outcomes of this study and various results that are interesting to look at. But what I want to do is shortly focus on 3 of them that I think are important for the work that we do, so areas that we need to engage in, that we need to support the founders in. And of course, I mean, the results of this study, they come from impact of digitalization, the quotas of female founders that need to change massively, but also like which universities bring up the most founders in the German ecosystem, to the funding of like 2.1 billion that has been raised by the startups that were asked so far. So there are a lot of interesting topics in this study that need to be addressed. But for today, to give you a short insight and to present some actionable conclusions to that, I will just focus on 3 of them. The first one is internationalization as a very, very important topic for many of the companies in the ecosystem, and how to create a framework that eases this step to take. The second one is hiring and especially hiring people from abroad, because this is a huge issue in Germany too. I don't know how it is here. I would like to exchange about that. And the third one, my personal favorite topic is creating clusters for knowledge exchange. So let me jump into the data here. Internationalization. 87% of the companies that are in the German ecosystem and took part in this study plan internationalization, further internationalization with a few targets. Of course, as was mentioned in the last session, Europe is a very interesting target due to the market that is very integrated, but also North America and Asia. But then, when it comes to really acting out these internationalizations, there are huge challenges. So, for example, more than 66% of the startups perceive legal or regulatory differences in the markets they want to internationalize to as the main challenge to their internationalizing activities. So, what can be done about that? I tried to break down the actionable conclusions to the different stakeholders. So, there are three kinds of stakeholders that we address with the ideas what can be done to make this a more founder-friendly environment with regard to internationalization. So this is on the one hand, innovation facilitators. I don't know if there are any here. I perceive innovation facilitators, for example, as associations as we are one, but also accelerators, investors, all the people that promote the whole ecosystem in some way. Then, of course, an important role is governmental bodies. And then the entrepreneurs, what they can do themselves. So when it comes to innovation facilitators, what needs to be done to really enable internationalization for the company is frameworks of best practices of internationalization, so that specific companies from specific sectors can draw from experience that other companies have. You need to provide that to the company so that they don't have to reinvent the wheel for themselves when they want to go to a specific market. This means also team up with your competitors. I mean, people always fear competition, but in the end, when you go to another market and you have a few competitors, of course, if you're, for example, Snapchat and Facebook, then you're a direct competitor. But, I mean, how many startups does this apply to on a smaller scale? So team up with your competitors and share infrastructure. This is much more efficient when it comes to internationalization. The second data I want to present to you, very interesting for me, is with regard to the need for high potential employees. And in Germany, that means often, when it comes to startups, high potential employees from abroad, non-German born employees. So the German startup ecosystem profits from immigration. More than 60% strongly agree with that statement. And I mean, this is pretty clear why this is the case. The startups have a massive need to hire people in Germany. So more than 7 employees are planned, or more than 7 new hires are planned within the next 12 months on average by the companies in this questionnaire. And that shows a little bit where the people should come from. So the people agree that the domestic startup landscape profits massively from immigration as they want to hire a lot of people. But again, there are challenges employing people from abroad, and I'm sure many of them are quite obvious, but in this case, it comes mostly down to the very infamous German bureaucratic system. So it's just incredibly complicated to hire high potential people that are not from European Union. So about 50% perceive exactly those bureaucratic hurdles as most challenging factors when employing someone else, but still at the same time, and I think this number is quite stunning, on average, for the German startup ecosystem, 30% of the employees already are non-German born. And when you break it down to Berlin, this is already 50%. So there's a huge potential there, which is somehow, but there are hurdles to really get that potential or transform that potential into business success when it comes to hiring people. So what can be done about that? I think the innovation facilitators need to create fruitful matchmaking structures to really connect the skilled people to the open positions. They need to support during the visa process so that they have somehow a soft landing. The people that come to Germany to work for a startup, for example, that they have a soft landing and the company doesn't have all the hassle with the work visa application. This is something where you can put the whole ecosystem forward. And then again, language is also a huge issue. In Berlin, maybe not so much. Most of the teams are English speaking, but if you're not English speaking and you're a high potential employee, you will have maybe some problems. So what innovation facilitators can do is promote intense language trainings before the hire and also after the hire. Governmental body, okay, the authorities need to reduce the bureaucracy. This is a massive issue in the end. And I think it's a specific issue for Germany, but maybe also for other countries. There are also already attempts to create some fast-track visa application lines for people that want to work in startups or that want to found companies. I think this is in place, for example, in Canada. I think lately also it was installed in France. This needs to be the case in Germany too. And also the government should incentivize foreign hires by lowering the wage costs that come with the hire, which is also a massive burden in Germany. When you hire people, you have a lot of costs that come besides the salary. And the entrepreneurs, of course, for some it's an issue. They even don't look left and right. They just look in Germany for an open position because they think it's easier. But there's a lot of potential that is missed due to the case that people don't even consider non-German born staff for open positions. Once they hire them, they have to create, I want to encourage entrepreneurs to create a culture of diversity in the company and again to share experiences and team up for the hiring process when it's an international process. So this is so important. You can really profit from teaming up here. The third area I want to tackle is the area of creation of regional clusters. What? Yeah, I'm done, nearly done. The area of regional clusters. So more than 50% are part of regional clusters. And they say like more than 60 or 55% perceive the benefits as very high of these regional clusters. So they expect knowledge transfer, experience sharing between the companies. And this is something that needs to be encouraged to make the companies succeed because they cooperate. So what needs to be done is creation of a non-competitive exchange network. And this is something that is really important for me. You don't compete about funds, or mostly when you meet other startups, you compete about anything. This exchange needs to be non-competitive. And maybe innovation facilitators and investors, I don't know if someone is here today, should also think about funding clusters. Why only fund individual companies? By promoting a whole cluster, you can somehow create more value for the individual investment you have made in the company, in the individual clusters. Governmental bodies, they need to engage with the people, with the local clusters that are created and really lend an ear to them. What do they need? Maybe even fund meetups that are there. And the entrepreneurs themselves, of course, they need to involve themselves. They need to be open. They need to be willing to share and create a culture of give and take, not only take, which I see mostly in Germany. They need to allocate resources and also empower the employees to be part in those regional clusters so that they can grow to their best. So what I would like to keep you in mind when we talked about the challenges that we see, or only some of them, in the German ecosystem is the mindset, and this is mostly targeted or catered to entrepreneurs. You need to be supportive to be successful, and you need to be inclusive. This can really accelerate your business. You need to use shared infrastructure, consider supports besides monetary investment as equally important. You need to share knowledge and experience. And maybe I have the feeling it's more the case here than it is in Germany, but for us this is a real issue. You need to team up whenever possible and build clusters. I can only encourage you to do that because I see that individual companies profit a lot from that. So I'm running out of time apparently, but that was it. Thank you.